Welcome to the Cryptonometron, and today I'm doing another ICO, and it's become a bit of a habit because I've not really done anything but ICO reviews for the last few weeks, and I'm enjoying doing them. I'll be honest with you, there's so many projects coming now, it's becoming a bit of a habit, and I'm enjoying bringing them to you. I try to bring some interesting stuff along, not just churn out the usual nonsense. So this one, you may be thinking, is another healthcare ICO, another medical data ICO. Yes, it is another one, but there's a few interesting things about it, not least of all, it's built on the EOS platform. And this is the first EOS platform ICO I have brought to you. So sit back, enjoy, and listen to what I think about Iryo Network ICO. So I didn't have to look far to find a competitor analysis here. This is on Medium by Luka Percic, and he's the CEO of zeropass.io. They are behind the Iryo Network ICO, just for full disclosure here. But he's done a nice competitor analysis of the different blockchain solutions available in healthcare at the moment. Iryo is at the top here. He obviously doesn't rate it, but he does have a look at some of the other competitors such as Mediblock. What are the other ones? Medical Chain, Amchart, which I don't know about, MediChain, and Participatory. So basically he analyzes them, describes their shortcomings, and also scores them as well based on the positives, the shortcomings, and token distribution. So it's a very interesting article. I shall leave a link to it below. As you can see here, you know, there are some shortcomings with every project. That's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. And we're in early stages of the technology at the moment, so you don't expect everything to be perfect. But there are some issues, and who better to highlight them than the people behind the Iryo Network ICO. So, you know, if they're looking at the shortcomings of other projects that have gone before, they are prepared to implement solutions to those shortcomings when they launch their project. So let's take Mediblock for the first example. The shortcomings he describes from Mediblock are they deploy a proprietary chain, huge development overhead, he says, for that, using IPFS decentralized storage, but simultaneously offering their own copy to increase reliability, which means they don't trust the IPFS network, but are still using it, which increases development costs and complexity of the system. Wouldn't disagree there. Then there's voting on the peer-to-peer identity concept. Seems reckless, lacks definition. And then the other issue at the bottom is there's no information on how you'd recover your key, so you could actually lose your information as well. There are some positives listed there. It's open source, although the GitHub appears to be dead at the moment. It is a public blockchain. Mobile phone has a copy of the medical data, encryption with patient key, and they are using the new Cipher technology for re-encryption as well, and they highlight the token distribution. So the bearer health record score is 3 out of 5 for that project, but other ones don't fare as well. Medical Chain gets 2 out of 5. I think you know, there's a lot of token distribution for the team in these projects, 65% for Medical Chain, and I think there's one that's even higher. So no, there isn't. So that's still fairly high, though. I mean, 65% of your total tokens for the team is, you know, it's maximum money grab. I did do a Medical Chain review. It's on my channel. If you want to go back through the videos and have a look at it, you're welcome to do so. It wasn't the smoothest run ICO in the world either. They also had some issues with the KYC, trying to do it right before the crowd sale, which was idiotic if you ask me. And I was thinking about going in for a small amount, but I ended up passing on it because I just couldn't be bothered with the hassle doing the KYC, you know, your customer checks right before the crowd sale began. So the problems are multiple, and we can break them down in 4 different sections: for patients, for medical staff, for researchers, and also for clinical managers as well. So let's start with the top one, the patients first. And it's easier for me to do this reading off the website than it is to actually waste time putting a PowerPoint slide together and or use the white papers as a little bit more simplified and easy. So the problem for patients is obviously institutional data ownership. The governments, etc., the overarching bodies of the hospitals and clinics own your data, and there's limited access for you to your own data and your own medical records as well. There's also limited interoperability, and it's fragmented across a multiple of incompatible systems. They don't speak to each other, and also, of course, low-level security, which means your data is at risk. And obviously, the solution for Iryo is the self-sovereign data, so you've got complete access and control over your own medical records. The system will be obviously interoperable between different platforms due to the API they're going to provide. So you basically have a interconnected system, and that will share data over the network, which means that you'll get the proper treatment based on your case history, and unrivaled security as well. Of course, because we're having a blockchain technology here, it's secured by cryptography. It's also distributed ledger, so it's much more secure in the centralized system. So medical staff have also got problems that need to be tackled. Redundant medical systems. Again, you might have, if you're a doctor or you're a nurse, you might have to put in the data in a database, and you might have to put it in somewhere else in the hospital system, so on and so forth. There's no one universal system. Outdated user platforms, again, the time taken to input the data, retrieve data, it means that you're busy when you could be treating patients. And the other one is limited IT support as well. So it can lead to improper decision making, they say, and obviously it decreases efficiency as well at the same time. So the solution from Iryo is the single entry system, so it keeps all the data points consistent across all the systems. It's user friendly. The UI UX will be very intuitive, and then they will have on-demand support as well from Iryo themselves. So it gives the hospital staff the potential to contact somebody immediately and get the answers that they need when they need them. So for researchers, there's also a problem. They have limited capabilities as well because of the data analysis. They can't get their hands on the proper data. They've also got a narrow research scope as well. The data, again, is fragmented, and it's difficult to get it all, and high costs as well. To run these data gathering expeditions, it's a high cost venture. So the Iryo solution, again, augmented research capabilities using AI, machine learning, and utilization of big data. A broad research scope targeting large pools of effective and anonymous medical data, and predictive costs as well, which will allow you to keep your costs down. And the final set of problems is for clinical managers. Again, we have a problem of single vendor lock-in. They're pretty much held hostage by the provider of the software, and the IT company that's providing it. They can't really do anything else. Medical costs are always increasing, of course, and centralized low-level security. Again, back to the issue with the patients as well, that hacks and cybersecurity attacks mean data leaks, and that's not good for business. So again, the solutions, multi-vendor options using an API on their network. Then you can be pretty much flexible in what one you're going to choose, what one you're going to use. You've also got a cost-friendly solution as well, so your admin costs won't be sky high. And again, decentralization means more network security. So referring to the white paper abstract, their aims are basically to build a immutable ledger on the EOS blockchain using open source code. They're going to have an API for developers as well for integration of third-party software, and they're going to ensure interoperability, transparency, and security for medical records. And the important thing here is the privacy aspect of it, because it's very, very important with this sensitive data. Health records are very, very sensitive. That they're kept private and they're kept secure. So that's the main aim. And The interesting part of this ICO, as I mentioned before, is it's being built on the EOS platform, and we'll discuss a little bit later on why they decided to do that and what benefits that gives them. But now let's have a look at the market and see, what traction they could possibly get with this kind of project. So we've discussed the market for digital healthcare in previous videos, and we know it's worth billions of dollars. I've used this Deloitte website and report before, so I'll link to it below again in the description. It just highlights how the trend is moving away from traditional medicine, bricks and mortar, people visiting doctors, to online and telemedicine. And that's a trend that's going to that's set to continue into the future, obviously. So with that comes the importance of having your information digitally signed, private and secure. So it's very, very important. So the market is very large, and just to reiterate how large it is, we've got the stats here from Statista, and this is the global digital health market from 2015-2016, and a projection for 2017. Obviously not got the figures yet, and as you can see, it's going to grow year on year to reach $206 billion by 2020, driven particularly by the mobile and wireless health market. So the market is very large for this kind of digital record, and if one of these companies can get their act together, then there's a lot of money to be made out of it. So they're using the EOS blockchain, and there is a little section on why they're using EOS over Ethereum in the white paper. Now I've extracted some of the main points that they made. It's not all positive. There are negatives as well with the every platform that you're going to use. You're going to find there are some concerns or some issues that you have to deal with. Ethereum's no exception either. But let's look at why they want to use the EOS chain. And one of the reasons is Ethereum does not allow rolling back your app. You can't pause it or stop it. It affects the rest of the apps that are running on the main chain. Also, projects don't really control their own smart contract. With Ethereum, it's a rental model, whereas it's an ownership model with EOS. You actually own a percentage of the EOS tokens, then you own your app on top of that and your smart contract. And users still need to compete for limited block space and bid with gas on the Ethereum network. So you'll find that you either wait your turn or you have to up your gas price and it costs more money. Again, EOS will offer what they call shards. It's referred to as blockchain apps. And basically what this means is the information that's distributed throughout the nodes on the network is very light, and that means you get a lighter chain, which means it's faster, and it's also more scalable as well. And that's going to help. EOS can process a lot more transactions per second than the Ethereum blockchain as a result of that. Essentially, all the transactions are free for end users on the EOS system, provided that your platform doesn't have more than 1% of the EOS tokens, and it uses WebAssembly instead of Solidity, and that ensures C++ toolchain compatibility, which they are obviously using to build their platform. So those are the positives and the reasons why they're using EOS for the project over Ethereum. You can look at the article I've posted below. It's a very good comparison with EOS and Ethereum, and it highlights some of the advantages and disadvantages of both platforms. So just another couple of advantages to highlight what I was just saying about EOS versus Ethereum. EOS uses delegated proof of stake, not proof of work, so it's more scalable. Apps can be fixed on the EOS blockchain, not so much on the Ethereum blockchain. It's quicker because it's proof of stake and not proof of work. A graphics card can only produce so many transactions per second, whereas the proof of stake model allows for 10,000 to 100,000 transactions per second theoretically. And also, ownership of EOS tokens gives a proportional stake in the network bandwidth, computing power and storage. So you actually own part of the network. It's what I was referring to before as an ownership model over a rental model. Whereas with the Ethereum model, you're only renting it, the network at any given time. And you know, if you look at the Ethereum blockchain, one smart contract essentially can slow down or even clog the network to complete halt. You know, we've seen CryptoKitties, you know, and a few others do that. With EOS, because of the way it works, that's not possible. So it's got a lot of advantages, but again, the link is below. There's a better article, more than I can explain, that highlights all of the differences and the advantages and negatives as well. So the whole point of having the blockchain is that you have this immutable record of the medical records and your health data. And the reason that the blockchain is quite important is because a normal public blockchain, anybody would be able to access any of the data that's on it. So you have to have it permissioned as well, so that only certain people on the chain can access the data. Now, the other problem is, of course, ownership. You don't want your data leaking to people that you've not authorized to use it. So they're going to have this medical record ownership with the use of public key encryption. So that will give you complete control over your own records. And then they will also have decentralized data storage, which ensures that it's protected against attacks, hacks, or whatever, and it's secure and private as well. So they've got three methods of holding the data, as you can see in this zero knowledge infographic on the left. They have the patient mobile device, which will act as a node, and they will also have a cloud backup node as well, and an encrypted clinic backup node too. So the data will be spread over three different types of nodes, giving it more redundancy, protection against redundancy, and also more protection against attacks, hacks, and theft and that type of thing. So this is the blockchain. Basically, the data can be accessed, and as a patient, as an owner of the data, you will be able to permission people to access it. You can be rewarded or acquire some of the tokens for allowing your data to be used in certain research or collection. And you can also access different health apps. You'll be able to pay for medical services with the tokens, and set time limits and everything else on your data being accessed. So the EOS blockchain, again, I mentioned before, they use shards, which is blockchain apps, if you have read the EOS white paper. But what they essentially do is make the transactions very, very fast. And that aids with scalability. So when you're using the EOS chain, you don't have to wait, and you know, it's almost instant the way it works. And that's important because you know, if you've got this sensitive information on the blockchain and you're trying to access it, you want it to be accessed as quick as possible, so your consultations can you know, conclude quickly. You're not having the patient hanging about, you know, for 30 minutes, waiting on on your Ethereum transaction going through the network, or having to up your gas fee because the transaction has failed. So that's the ultimate benefit of it. So one of the challenges for the technical side is the patient data management. They've decided to use this open EHR system for that, and the reason behind that is because it's used throughout some European countries, and obviously if they use that, it's more likely that these countries will adopt their blockchain system of medical records. The other problem, of course, is the security, and medical data is classified by Iryo as a toxic asset, because obviously there's a lot of liability if that gets hacked and the information goes viral. So they manage this by calling what they call zero knowledge data storage. They believe it's resistant to all attacks, including inside jobs or actors, etc. And the way this happens is that the users have a public key on their mobile device, and then when the doctor or the clinic or you know, somebody wants to access their information, they have to actually authorize that by clicking yes on the app. So that's how they're going to stop any unauthorized distribution of patient data. I mentioned briefly in the blockchain section about the 3 levels of geographically and managerial redundancy, and I'll just briefly mention them again. One way of doing it is having it on the cloud node, another is on the home clinic storage node, and another is on the end user, the mobile device. They all have obviously positives and negatives, but the fact it's spread over the 3 of them gives the redundant element as well, so that your data will always be retrievable whatever happens. And you know, the pros of having it on the cloud node is it's audited, maintained, secured and backed up. Obviously it's centralized though, so not very secure. And then the encrypted copy in the home clinic, it's a local copy. The clinic does not need to rely on the internet connection. And the cons of that are the IT personnel lack specialization in security, you know, so they might have an email hack or something and people get hold of the data. And then number 3, the mobile device, for example, that's got your public key on it, is decentralized, and so it's protected by the network, the nodes on the network. But the cons of that are there's not enough space for all your data on there. You know, you wouldn't be able to keep all your patient records on your mobile device. Plus, a lot of malware or viruses infect your mobile devices. And obviously, your mobile device can get lost or stolen and picked up by a malicious person. So another interesting technical aspect to this ICO is their use of artificial intelligence and machine learning. Now, what this will give them is the way to identify trends and test hypotheses for researchers and you know, to correlate health data, and it will also be able to maybe find problems with your health. If it analyzes your records, it might be able to say, oh, these are the symptoms for you know, this particular disease, and then find it earlier than say you would even notice yourself, or a physician would notice. So you know, that really is a fantastic benefit. If you think about that, you know, the machine learning analyzing all this data, it picks up, you know, you've got a twinge somewhere, you visited the doctor for that, and then you've got some other symptoms from something else, and maybe the doctor hasn't diagnosed it correctly, but the AI will, because it's got all the information, and then it acts on that, and you know, it will maybe alert you or alert the clinic, and then you'll be able to catch the symptoms early on before you know, they're untreatable. So you know, that could be an amazing step forward with this kind of technology. So I'll just do a quick tech summary, as I've been jumping about all over the place in the white paper. And the first one is obviously the open EHR. Now, what this means is this allows interoperability between different systems that already have patient data, so it's a lot more efficient to gather and share data of the patients. Zero knowledge framework, which means it's impossible for the hackers to actively hack the network and get your patient information. It's a decentralized network. Again, that helps with you know, using the blockchain, using decentralization means the system's always got uptime, it's always working, and again, it's more secure and more private as well. This is an open API. All the source code is shared. It's all out there. You can view it yourself, and this aids in development, as developers will be you know, able to access the code and build on this platform. And they are using an advanced coding model. It's called Go, I believe, and this is going to allow for more scalability in the future. They have an Apache license, so the use of digital signatures means that the project can scale in the future, and also be quicker and faster as well. The API implementation, again, they're using this, I think Swagger it's called, which is going to again make it a lot better than its rivals on the Ethereum blockchain as well. They have this cloud backup we mentioned before. They have the redundancy feature, but backing up the patient's information and actually having it audited and securely stored is an additional bonus for this project. They are utilizing a rewards-based structure. Again, you know, we'll discuss that in the next section about the token utility, but essentially you'll get rewarded for sharing your data with research labs, etc. And finally, it's fully open source. All the code is on GitHub. You can access it, and you can view it as well. Let's take a look at the token utility now. What they're proposing is that medical institutions using the Iryo system would provide a stake of, say, $10,000 worth of Iryo tokens for their accounts. And this serves to weed out the wheat from the chaff, so to speak, that you don't want fake institutions just joining up and then spamming users. So this ensures that any institution that's on the chain is a legitimate organization. The next use is the clinic staking requirement would be used to cover the cost of storing the EHR data for the patients. Data storage is not free, as we know. It does cost money, and of course, this needs to be taken into account as well. The other use for the token is that is the incentivization for end users to allow queries. So basically, for sharing your data, you will get rewarded for that. And there's also the case of medical emergency as well. So the hospital can lock $1,000, for example, worth of tokens in a smart contract, which gives the patients permission to withdraw the tokens in 1 month's time if the patient deems access to the medical records unjustified. However, and this is all down to whether the patient actually is capable of giving the permission or not. In emergency circumstances, hospitals will have to actually, get access to the information that they need. So this sort of acts as an escrow, if you like. And then fifth and finally, the services in the clinics who have adopted the Iryo platform could be paid with Iryo tokens instead of credit cards. So they envisage a system where Iryo is being used to make the payments for services, for health services, by the patients to the physicians. Another thing that must be noted about the token is it is an inflationary token. They're going to actually have a 1% yearly inflation, which they say covers storage costs and offers the development subsidy to ensure continuous development on the network, and also provide a sustainable future for our Iryo token holders, even when the initial funds are running out. So until the platform is publicly available, the inflation tokens will be burned. So I did a little bit of digging and I couldn't find any scam warnings or red flags on this project whatsoever. It looks legit, the team's legit, and the code is all open source. So yeah, I have no concerns about this project whatsoever. If you do have any, please post in the comments below so that we can share. This is a community, so I'm not I'm not infallible. I make mistakes. So if there's something I haven't researched or I haven't found, please post it below. I'll definitely comment on it and make it aware, make the community aware of it as well. But as it stands, this project, as far as I'm concerned, is a legitimate project with no scam warnings and no red flags whatsoever. So the nice people from Iryo have supplied me with this ICO paper. It highlights all the things about the ICO, which is quite useful. And the token name will be IRYO or Iryo. Soft cap is 8 million USD, hard cap 26 million USD, so not too high there. Not getting carried away, trying to raise as much money as possible. The token price will be, give or take, about 11 cents, and that will be subject to revision later on nearer the ICO time. The token will initially be an ERC20 token. They will accept Ethereum and EOS as the currency. There will be 2 pre-sale windows, one from March the 28th and one from April the 4th, and then the general crowd sale will start on April the 11th. There will be bonuses in the 2 pre-sale windows, 20% for the first one and 10% for the second one. Unfortunately, American investors are restricted on this, no Chinese either, and no South Koreans. But if you're an accredited investor in the US, you're okay, you're good to go. Now the token supply is as follows. Total supply will be 300 million Iryo tokens. And again, we mentioned the inflation before. It said 1% inflation in the white paper, but it's got 2% yearly here. The reasons were explained in the last section. I explained it in the text section very briefly. And 80% of the tokens are going towards the crowd sale. 40% will be for the general crowd sale, 20% for each of the pre-sale windows with the bonuses, 5% will be reserved for airdrops, 5% for private sale as well, and 10% will go to the team and Iryo. And there we go, there's just some more information about the project there. The one other thing I want to point out here, not really relevant to the ICO section, but I have to point out is I think the material has been very, very well presented. It's very easy to read, clean. The website's very nice. So yeah, I'll give them another thumbs up for that. So there doesn't appear to be a bounty campaign for this project. However, if that changes, or if you know different, post below and I'll update you if that does change. So the roadmap is quite long and it's not that detailed. It's very concise though. 2015 they did their preliminary research from a company called 3FS, and they were researching how to establish common interoperability between international medical systems. 2016 they got some seed capital from 3FS and established Iryo Network, and the team began by validating several proof of concepts and pilot projects, and the proof of concept is available on GitHub as well. 2017 they started developing. 2018 they are going to have their ICO obviously, and then their production grade implementation. So the crowd sale's coming up quite soon. They will have their production grade fully scalable implementation for Iryo partners soon as well. And then 2019 there will be the public release, which will be the integration of the interoperable unified health records, the zero knowledge storage we spoke about, and the blockchain permissions. And then by 2020 they'll be expanding the network with support and adoption of value added services, and they're even going to design and execute their own Iryo certified clinics as well. Okay, so briefly looking at the team now, we've got Vasja as the CEO, Dominic the CTO, Peter is the head of strategic development. Now they've all been involved, or a lot of them have been involved with this company 3FS, which was the company prior to this project taking off. The experience here, Vasja has experience in Unicredit and Bitstamp, which some of you will be familiar with. Dominic is a software developer. He's had experiences in with languages like Go, Erlang, PHP, SQL, etc. And he's worked with some gaming companies as well. He's also the author of Tactical, a server security assistant. Peter has a degree in philosophy and has worked again with 3FS, but with medical IT systems as well, so it's quite important. I think overall the team looks very competent. They've got experience in healthcare, experience in IT, experience in software development, a little bit of blockchain experience thrown in there for good measure as well. And the advisory body, again, just complements that. We've got a serial entrepreneur on board as well. So just as an aside, I will mention, I always say that having people involved in the industry that the ICO is aiming at is very, very helpful and beneficial to the project in general. And this ICO, this project has that, but they also have entrepreneurs helping them, and you need people with experience of startups. So Andras is going to help with that. I notice here Brian DeFrancesca has 20 years of experience in international healthcare as well. I noticed Bumrungrad Hospital in Thailand, where I have been before as well. So I'm familiar with where he's worked. And again, more medical and healthcare experience. And even here, Mate, I think it's pronounced, the former State Secretary of the Slovenian Ministry of Health. So an impressive advisory board as well to complement the core team. It's not too bloated, it's not too large, but again, no questions over whether they'll be able to implement this. I've no qualms whatsoever. So the partnerships are immediately, and 3FS listed on the website. There also, there's a couple of guys on the team and advisory body from ZeroPass as well, but they don't name them here. So we want to know what 3FS is. They're a mobile app development company. They make tailor-made cloud solutions. Obviously, this that's going to be helpful for the cloud storage for Iryo Network, and immediately are a database of medicines available in Slovenia. So they're already partnered up, and I think that's the only partners they've got. I couldn't find any more information on partnerships or anything else. So yeah, just the two of them at the moment. So community now, and this project is obviously lacking in community support simply because it's so new, but hopefully that will change in the run up to the ICO, as projects seem to be gaining a lot of community support once they get spread about on social media. So they're obviously on Telegram, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. They have their code on GitHub, a proof of concept that they did for a hackathon some time ago, and they're also on Medium blog as well. If we look at Twitter, they have 1,102 followers. So it's not too shabby for a very under the radar unknown project. We look at their Twitter audit, 92%, so that's pretty good. And then they've only got 683 members on the Telegram, so the link to the Telegram is below. So if you're interested in this project, you're best off following them. Let's grow the community and help them try to achieve what they want to do. So verdict time now, and the positives that I see in the Iryo Network ICO. Well, first off, it's very innovative. I like the fact that they're using a different blockchain. I like the fact that they are trying something a little bit different from the competition. They're trying to be a bit more innovative. They're not just rolling out another Ethereum-based blockchain trying to do what the competition is doing. Number two, it's technically excellent. They've really thought about what they want to deliver and how they want to deliver it. Stuff like the redundant storage of data is something that is beyond the competition as far as I'm aware. Number three, and very importantly, this could be a showcase ICO for the EOS platform. Not many other projects are using it, and they've not chosen to use it yet. This is one of the first. It's certainly the first I've reviewed, and it could certainly become a showcase for the whole project, which again, will drive this on to success, but more importantly, it will demonstrate the capabilities of the platform to everybody else and maybe put the competition to shame. Number four, the token price of around 11 cents is a good starting price for a token, especially given the relatively low supply. Total supply is 300 million. Token price there is pretty good. The metrics of this project make sense. Number six, the team is very competent and experienced. They have some entrepreneurial advisory skills in there. They have healthcare skills, government ministry skills, IT skills, software development skills. They really do tick all the boxes. Now, they've not got the big all-star names. You've probably never heard of them. They haven't got your Charlie Schrems, your Roger Veres, your usual project advisors, E.L. Herzogs, etc. But what they do have is very competent and experienced, and that's more important than having the all-star names on your team. These guys can deliver. They don't need Michael Jordan to dunk the ball in the basket. Number seven, they have a real-world use case for this project. This will be picked up and used if it's successful, especially in European countries. So it has a real-world use case, and it has some very, very beneficial uses as well. And in saying that, it solves real-world problems in the industry. It really, really will make things a lot easier for the healthcare industry, and as such, it's very, very disruptive to the industry as it currently is. Number nine, this project has several competitive advantages, mostly technical, over its rivals. Its rivals seem to be struggling a bit with the technical aspects, but this project certainly doesn't, and it has major competitive advantages. Again, redundancy, security of the data is one, but there are others as well. And number 10, they do have a proof of concept on their GitHub at the moment, but yep, as usual, there's always some negatives with the project, and the first one is, although they've got a proof of concept, they've no working product as yet, so it's some time down the line before we actually see the launch of the platform. Number two, it is an inflationary currency. They're going to grow it by 2% or 1% every year, depending on which document you read in the material. But it is inflationary, and that might have an effect on whether investors decide to get involved with this project. Number three, there's a lot of competition in this sector. Now, I've mentioned already, I believe that this project, excuse me, is more technically adept than its rivals and has more benefits in that regard. However, the sector is very, very competitive at the moment. You know, we've got 3 or 4 ICOs launching in the last couple of weeks, including Medical Chain, that are attempting to do similar things. So it's going to be difficult to become top of the pile. You know, I think what we'll see is 3 or 4 of the best projects all sort of vying for the top dog, and this certainly, I think this certainly could be among them. Number 4, it's a long and fairly vague roadmap. You know, we're going to wait till 2019 before we see the public launch of the platform, and you know, going into 2020. But it's not as detailed as I would have liked either. And number 5, what I feel is probably one of the biggest negatives about this project: the community support simply isn't there yet. Now it's growing markedly since this came on on my radar, and it will of course grow a little bit more as well once I put this video out. And you know, and people start to share the information about it, but the community support is not there yet. And you know, a lot of projects are driven on hype. Seems to be a very, very important factor these days for ICOs, especially. Hype tends to drive a project. This one's got longer term potential, don't get me wrong, but you know, for those of you looking to make quick money back from your investment, and I don't suggest that you try to do that on ICOs or any other crypto at the moment, but if you do, then the community support isn't there, the hype isn't there to really get this any traction on the exchanges. So let's hope it starts to build before the ICO kicks off and they do get a good bit of support behind them. And the last negative is token utility is not the best in this project. There are other projects in this sector that have a better idea about their token utility, and what I mean by that is, yep, it provides a function, but it's not as clearly stated in the white paper, and it doesn't seem to incentivize users of this platform as much as their competition. So that would be my final negative. So overall, what do I think of this project? Well, I like it. It's technically superior than its competition, and it's an EOS showcase as well, which I think could drive this project to success. I'm going to give it 3.5 stars out of 5. The reason it loses some marks is obviously it doesn't have a working project yet. It doesn't quite have the community support it needs to get traction. It's still relatively unknown, so there's time for that to change. Don't get me wrong. When I do a review, things change so fast in the crypto space. You know, I could be saying this is 3.5 stars, and in a month's time it could be 5 stars. You know, that's how things change when projects change. Team members come on board that can influence a project. Partnerships come on board that can really, you know, boost a project. And you know, other factors are taken into consideration. Some projects maybe lower their hard cap, you know, lower the token price, etc., that make them more attractive to investors. So you know, but as of this moment, because of the lack of the working product and the platform, and other small niggles that I have with it, it's 3.5 stars out of 5. But I really like it. I think it's definitely one to keep an eye on. Will I be investing in it? I may well do. You know, as I say, it's technically excellent, and I think it's got longer term potential. And that's the kind of projects that I like. I don't particularly like to flip. I'm looking for something that can actually, you know, be around in 3-5 years time even. And mark my words, there will be a lot of projects that won't be around in 3 to 5 years time, that's for sure. So you've got to pick carefully, and for longer term this looks like a safe bet, and I like it. As I said, I enjoyed doing the review immensely. You know, EOS projects, this is the first one I've reviewed, it gave me a lot of insight into the benefits of the EOS platform over the more popular Ethereum platform, and definitely there will be more coming on that platform in the near future. So guys, thanks again for watching. I really appreciate all your views, your comments, you know, your likes and your subscriptions and everything. It all helps. And I'll leave it there. Suffice to say, with the usual disclaimer, that I'm not a financial advisor. This isn't financial advice. You know, if you're going to invest in ICOs, bear in mind they do have inherent risks, and never invest more than you can afford to lose. Always do your own due diligence. Always do your own research. Don't listen to YouTubers. You know, if my video helps you make a decision, great. But you know, don't. It's not financial advice. It's meant for entertainment purposes only, guys. Yeah. So. Yeah, that's it. I'll stop waffling now, and I think I'm off to the pub. So have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.